So it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the Town Hall School Admin Building Committee to order. First item on the agenda, the roll call. When I say your name, just say here. Diane Allen,
Here.
Kevin Kyra.
Yeah.
John Doherty said he would not be here. Jesse Fennelly
He'll be here shortly.
on his way. Steve Turner.
Here.
Jack Holloway.
Yeah.
Paul Malorani.
Here.
Paul Ruggiero.
Here.
Glenn Brandt.
Here.
Dan Pallotta.
Here.
Jeff Hull.
Here.
Tony. Here. George Hooper here. All right. Next item on the agenda, I sent out the minutes of September 6th, 2023. Everybody had a chance to review them. If so, there's no discussion or corrections. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to accept the minutes.
I have a motion. by Paul
September
Malorani.
6, 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Second by Diane Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you.
Well,
All right, Dan. So status update on the project with the OPM and construction manager.
So today we at 2 o'clock, we received the pre-qualifications for the file sub bid. If you recall, under CM at risk, we received the file sub bids. And then we finalized the GMP with the CM. So when the drawings are ready to be given to the file sub bidders, I think that's gonna be December. Late November, early December. Right, one of the drawings gonna be ready? January, which is late in December, I guess, late December. The trades will be bid. We're still on target for a March 1st start. And the team has been going back and forth on trying to get the pre-order items priced up and ready to this committee. We received 8 masonry bids. We received 5 miscellaneous, I'm sorry, 8
Pre-quals.
pre-quals, thank you. 5 miscellaneous pre-quals, miscellaneous iron pre-quals, 5 waterproofing pre-quals, 5 roofing pre-quals, 10 metal window pre-quals, 9 glass and glazing pre-quals, 9 tile pre-quals, 4 acoustic ceiling pre-quals, 6 resilient flooring pre-quals, 16 painting pre-quals, 1 elevator pre-qual, which means that we will be re-advertising the elevator tomorrow for a 2-week bid cycle. If we don't get 3 qualified bidders, we will then assign it to the CM. 9 fire suppression pre-quals, 9 plumbing pre-quals, 10 HVAC pre-quals, and 8 electrical pre-quals. The MEPs are really important and we got tremendous
I was
response.
gonna say, those sound like great numbers.
Those
So,
are great numbers. If we get 5 or 6 bids in the last 5 categories, it's gonna be really helpful to the project and the project budget.
now the elevator one, I know that that's a long lead time item, right?
It is, I think, if we got an elevator bid on GMP, I think we'd be okay, but it is one of those items that we've identified that we'd like to do early if we can, but we have to follow the bidding laws, and if the bidding, if we get 3 qualified, we have to bid it as well as it is.
Here compared to our other project we have going, I mean, the amount of files up there is.
Yeah,
That's really good.
that's really, really good.
So does anybody have any questions? Tony, are you familiar with some of these file sub bidders?
Have not seen them yet, so what we'll do is we'll start the process tomorrow going through.
Okay.
It just came in at 2 o'clock
Right.
and we don't have access to the site, it was secured.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
tomorrow morning, first thing. we'll go.
Yeah, so tomorrow I have to open it up. I have to open up access to those that are gonna be reviewing. So it's not Tony's fault that he hasn't seen them, but looking at the list, I am sure that Tony is gonna be extremely happy at knowing that the people that are on the list, especially the MEPs. A lot of the MEPs are not typical MEPs. And I'm 100% confident that they came directly from considering doing the outreach they promised they'd do when we hired. So that's where we are on prequel. On the budget, we're drawings are almost 50%.
That's 50%.
Okay. At 75%, we're gonna do another estimate. That estimate, we're gonna do a reconciled estimate. I'm gonna have an independent estimate done independently of Tony's estimate, just to make sure that we're still on target. And then when we do the GMP estimate, Phil's got one more estimate, and his estimate's gonna be the estimate that so we're gonna have 3 different estimators looking at this as we're going through the process. And just to make sure we're still on target. If you remember the last couple of meetings, we've gone through the budget. We have showed you where we think we're high and where we're low. We showed you a whole bunch of little items that were easy pickings that the architect is suggesting that the project do that does not affect the project, but we have a whole bunch today that we think you need to weigh in on. So that's kind of why we're here today. And I look at chairman, that's okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Phil.
Okay, I just want to also say that Dan and myself, we started some conversation with the Planning and Conservation Director Valerie Gingrich and also the town engineer Paul Looney. So we're going to be keeping them up to speed right on some of us.
We I did talk to Phil after our meeting with them today. And we're gonna set up a meeting to have a direct one-on-one with the civil engineer. Just to go over the sanitary route. And to go over the method of calculation for the stormwater, make sure that we are in compliance with your stormwater bylaw. And a rough approximation of what we should expect with the conservation hearing.
But a question, didn't we move the building more towards School Street to get away from some of that wetlands originally?
Well, yeah, well, we're as close to School Street as we can be, it's still compliant with that.
Okay,
We're not in the wet,
no, I know that.
we're in the buffer.
Oh, we're in the buffer.
We're in the buffer. We're in the jurisdiction. We need a permit from the Conservation Commission. And we kind of knew that all along. We presented it that way when we all the way through that, we were gonna be in the buffer. I think when we had the initial meeting with the department heads long ago, a year ago, everybody kind of knew the location it was gonna be, and we have to demonstrate that we can protect that wetland to get a permit. And I have no doubt that will be accomplished.
Well, I heard about it late this afternoon, and talked to my engineers, and they're actually going to be in town Wednesday afternoon, so I sent you.
Right, I saw that. I just sent out an email to Planning and Conservation. So once I get some feedback, if it works for them, then we'll be setting that up. Plus, we have our community development group that we probably meet with too. So that gets everybody together. DPW, police, fire, so everybody.
We'd normally be looking at starting our permitting submissions with the 75% documents, and we're closing in on that now. And so before we get to that point, we would normally reach out and want to do an informal. So this actually works pretty good. Excellent. Work purpose for what we would normally be doing.
John, question, in keeping the Bazell school at right now, is that causing any issues with the wetlands and the buffer or anything like that?
No.
So if that was taken down, it would be easier, no?
No,
It wouldn't make a big difference to us.
It wouldn't,
It would not.
okay.
In terms of conservation and things like that. They'd obviously want to know about it if you wanted to make it part of this project. I'm sure Tony would wanna know about it, wanna make part of this project. If it was gonna be, but even if it was gonna be a separate project, if it was gonna happen concurrently, you know, we just need to work that all out, get it in the document.
It's nothing to do with this project.
Okay.
All right, review of the budget for OPM, CM Designer, so this would be.
Okay, so I just put together some slides to kind of walk us through. For those of you that haven't seen things, this is a little summary chart, and Tony, you can jump in here and correct me if I make a mistake here. So basically, this is our budget, our target. This is the number that Consilia is working towards. When we did our estimate back in design development, which is a little while ago now, we found we were up a little bit. We needed to make some changes in order to get us down to where we belong. And so there's been a series of changes that we've talked about. And I say changes, and I'm gonna walk you through these pretty quickly here, but basically the accepted changes are, for the most part, I think, really corrections in the kind of a misunderstanding about what we were trying to show on the documents. So
So when you say changes, these are things that we've already discussed.
These are things
We've
you've
already accepted.
So this is basically, when I say changes, it's a change in the understanding between what Consigli is originally priced during design development, because not everything is on the drawings, and what we really have, or what we're really talking about.
Hopefully the design progress.
The progress, yeah. And so we've sent them additional sets of drawings. We sent them our 30% drawings where, and it made some corrections based on that. And that brings us, with those corrections, and everything down to a gap of about 300 and some change. And those are the things that I wanted to share with you tonight for the most part, but I'm just gonna kind of walk you through the entire thing. So when I say the accepted changes, there was a series of discussions that we had about that were brought up as potentials for value engineering by Consigli. And this first one, it's in a group here because it's got a bunch of different options. And the question is that glass reinforced concrete that we have up at the trim at the top. There was this potential savings in there if the system was lightweight enough that we didn't need a bunch of miscellaneous metals in there. They had a bunch of money in there for miscellaneous metals. We've done some very similar things in the past. We sent them some of our shop drawings and details from other projects that were more advanced, and they were able to make that correction. And so this is not Canva at all. Similar things in here. This is a change that you all talked about when I wasn't here, which is the ceramic tile. And that's a correction in putting ceramic wall tile on just the wet walls in the toilet rooms. And so that one. Eliminated acoustical wall panels. This was an allowance they had in their estimate, and we're not calling for acoustical wall panels anyway, so we were able to take that out. Steel framing correction. This is the difference between the design development drawings and the 30% drawings we had. We were carrying a very high cost per square foot for steel. I'm sorry, a weight per square foot steel that they carry in the allowance. Once they got all their beams and column size and everything, substantial difference in reduction in cost. So that's basically what all these things are. Savings is based on the assumption versus actual. It's not a real change. It's just a change in understanding and more additional information that we have given them. So that was good news there. That tells me that Consigli's being conservative early on, which
I was gonna say, these were pretty much picked up by Consigli.
Yes.
Some of your group identified.
Yeah, we say correction, but it's really as the design development, we're able to hone in on price.
Right.
okay. So there is a couple of others that are on the list. So now these are the items that kind of add up to that about $300,000 additional that we would like to get us down to close that gap. There's a series of other value engineering items on here. We're still looking at other items that we could do. But one of them is to reduce the amount of cast stone that we have on the elevations. And I'm going to show you what that might look like. But there's a potential savings in there of about $55,000. And we'd like you to vote on that, see if you like it. We took a look at it. When he first suggested it, I was, hey, we've already been through this. I don't really want to spring a change on the building committee, but I took a look at it in model and I'm going to show you those images.
Yeah.
No, not so bad. So I wanted to run it by you and see if it was something you're interested in. This is one you've already talked about, I think, porcelain tile in lieu of slate in the lobby. I know that folks like the natural slate, it's gonna wear well. What I suggested is that we could reconsider it, at least until we get to the next estimate, and we can fine tune things a little bit. That we consider it, keep it on the list as a potential alternate. Because the base bid could have the porcelain tile for that amount of savings, and then add alternate on bid day. You may get some good numbers from everybody, and if all the trade bids come in good, you may be able to afford that and just take it. And depending on what those numbers are. So I think rather than just eliminate it, as an option, I'm just suggesting keep it to help close that gap so that we can still think about what we're heading for. And then the other one was to reduce, the lighting. We're looking at, $10 a square foot for lighting right now. The question is, could we do it for $8 a square foot and save a considerable amount of money? I've had the discussion with GGD, and I think we can do that without giving up on the quality of lighting and fixtures and so forth that we're talking about. So of this list, I'm suggesting that these three, you take these two, and that this one be considered as an alternate, at least until the next cost estimate. And then, I mean, if the next cost estimate comes in and we're under, we'll be talking about whether I want to put these things back in. Dan won't be talking.
Or still the alternate.
Well, but the alternate, we'd be looking for alternates to have on bid day anyway.
I mean, of course, I look at longevity too. When I think of porcelain, I think of scratching and wearing and how the edges, I've seen it, looks great in the beginning. Few years goes in, your edges are worn down. Where slate, right, chips, where slate is just through and through and the kind of, but.
So I've got an image for you to look at for both of those things. In
Right.
terms of what I.
Steve, do you have a question?
Yeah, point of clarification. So, going from the DD to the 30%, there was a decent amount of change in the numbers, going from 30% to 75%. Is it that's similar?
We're not at 75
Oh,
yet.
but that's the next one coming, right?
That's the next one.
So when you get there, so what I'm saying is it possible it goes up or down either way?
Yes.
Yes.
So we could be in the same position or we could flip it.
We're gonna do this exercise a few times before we get to the GMP.
Thank you.
Is we're obviously trying to keep an eye on things as we go. But we won't know until we get there, right? So in terms of the precast reduction, we don't have a ton of precast in the base of the building. We are looking at precast lintels on the windows themselves. But for the most part, the windows at the upper part terminate right into the GFRC at the top. So that's not a big deal. So we could save a substantial amount if we just reduce the whole base stone down there to a band under the windows that act as their sills and so forth.
So below the band, would it be brick?
So, yeah, so these two different images here, and they may be hard to tell the difference, right? That's one of the reasons I'm showing it to you. So you'd have a band, right now, that distance is about 3 feet. It's gonna depend on the grades and so forth, it's go up a little bit, that's about 3 feet. This shows 1 foot band of the precast and then additional brick underneath it. Given that you're gonna see this here, and then as you wrap around the corner, if we have planting there, you're obviously
You're not even gonna
won't
notice
make a
it.
big difference. I was a little worried about it when I first put it together. It's not like we have a band all the way around the building.
Yeah.
And so I think it's worth it for some savings, if you all think it's worth it.
And I like the look of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
I like
think
the
rest of
look at it better,
it-
yeah.
If we're getting the savings, it's better look.
You like the band better?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's.
I mean, that's,
I do.
Thanks, Joe.
I don't know how anybody else feels. I like
That's
it.
what I thought.
I like the opinion.
I saw the two images today and I thought it was a brain teaser. What's different?
But I got it.
I like it.
Does
Yeah.
anybody else have an opinion on this?
Well, I was just saying to Stephen, I actually prefer the top. I like how it looks better, but not at the expense of $56,000, whatever it is. I'm comfortable with the bottom.
What is because I know we're trying to match the design or look to the school. So what is the school? Does it have the top look or does it have the bottom?
Well, neither, actually.
Okay.
Your school is about a 3-story high building. Really, the whole first floor is kind of a stone look.
Right.
And then from the second and third floor are brick. We've never had that. We did look at that at one point, no, early on. And this is kind of where we've ended up.
The windows are in clusters too, like classroom clusters, and they're surrounded by
precast, right, much larger window openings with kind of a precast frame around them. So we picked up some cues and so forth. It'll look like it belongs in the same neighborhood as the school, but it's not a copy of that school.
And is there, dirt along that side for plantings? or-
Here?
Yeah,
I'd have to, probably not. There's an exit door here that comes out of the meeting rooms and a sidewalk, and that sidewalk is probably close up against the door.
Do we have any wiggle room at all for replacement of that sidewalk, considering now making this change and plantings would make it look better? Maybe a foot, 2 foot, something.
Well, we might be able to.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I will have to talk to Civil and see how much wiggle room we have. As I said, we're as close to the property line as we can get because of the zoning setback. And if we pull out, the question is this wall going to be considered part of the building? We probably make a case that it's a site wall and it will make a difference. So I
Because it looks great, the front of it looks great, with the plantings in front of it. And I think that you see the casting like above the plantings.
Right,
and you
right,
get away with
I
it,
agree
you know?
with you, Paul. But that, there's a little green there at the end, which I'm assuming is some grass.
That's a cat, yeah.
Yeah, we're at 30%.
I haven't updated.
Who knows what that is?
This was
In reality.
This
Just
is
put
the model for
yeah,
building
yeah.
designs.
But I would think if we could put a few little plantings along there would,
On the
Would-
maintenance
would look-
factor,
look nice too.
DPW to
Right.
wax the grass.
Yes, I will ask him about that. In a little strip like that,
yeah.
I know my landscape architect's gonna say, unless the wind's blowing, you're not gonna get any rain, but you're under the overhang. But. Okay, and then, the next one I wanna show you is. Okay, so this is the slate, that I used in the model, and this is a porcelain tile. That I'm suggesting. Now, I don't know. We're probably getting too much into the nitty gritty, but you can buy a porcelain tile that is through color. So rather than because you can get some pretty inexpensive tiles at Home Depot and so forth that look like slate, because they basically painted a slate picture on the top before they glazed them, right? A more expensive porcelain tile would be, you would take a couple of different colors, mix them together like a marble cake, and then extrude the tiles and then fire them. So even when they wear down, you're still gonna have the same color all the way through. It's gonna change. I mean, if you were to wear halfway through it in 100 years, you would still have that pattern. And so that would be, now whether or not that's carried in. I mean, right now it's an allowance. It's going to be hard to tell, but that's what I would suggest is a porcelain tile that looks like that. Now, I mean, you could even get a porcelain tile that comes in different sizes like this, if you want to do the same pattern, you certainly could. That's just gonna cost a little bit more. And the question is whether or not we're eating up too much of the allowance that they've given us. We won't really know until we put it together so that we can price it at the 75%. But that's kind of what we're talking about, something that's not really gonna wear out.
I know we're still early on, Mr. Chairman. I know we're still early on in this, but it's kind of hard to visualize this. Is there a chance at some point, next meeting after, you could bring a sample of the porcelain versus the slate so that we can actually touch it, feel it, see it?
Good idea.
Happy to.
We can make an informed decision. But right now, it's just
It's just an
pending-
alternate.
It's a pending thing right now, so.
Yeah, it's an alternate. And we did see it in one of the examples of it, too, and I did notice that was the first thing I saw in some of the.
I don't know what I had for breakfast.
Sorry, that's what I did.
I think that's it. Oh, this is
What was
the other
it?
stuff that was rejected early on. And these are other items to be investigated and brought back for whatever, if we need to go back to that valuation.
But these are things that save us money.
Yeah, these are things that would have potentially saved you money.
Yeah.
But you talked about when I was here
Okay.
and didn't like it. So those are off the list right now. So you're not gonna get those savings, it's not included. But we're
We
still,
can revisit those.
if you need to, at a later date, or we try to come up with something else.
Okay.
But basically, you don't need them to get to this point. Right? We're basically within striking distance.
Okay.
You have a question, Phil?
Yeah.
You mentioned the third item was lighting. Now you're talking about outdoor lighting or indoor lighting? How is that?
Indoor lighting, so this is,
Saving 82,500. You hadn't mentioned that.
that's right, so the lighting
So
is,
what's the plan?
the lighting itself is basically is a challenge. to the electrical engineer to design a lighting system for the entire building inside. That would be that much less expensive, basically. It's one of those things where I can just turn to them. It's almost like, I need this amount in savings. And they may say, I can get you half of that in the lighting system and still give you exactly, what you're looking for. But I'm gonna suggest that we do these two other things and those are gonna make up the difference.
Right, it could be something like the BMS system, instead of having a real, the lighting control package, we would just go individual lighting control occupancy sensor or something.
Yeah,
That way, they get away from the elaborate, expensive, the whole building just functions on that where individual. So
they priced that for us. We just aren't recommending it. So if we need to, remove the, programmable lighting.
So you're talking about if someone walks into, say, a bathroom, if the lights go on by themselves?
No, that happens.
We
anyway.
still have to have.
Okay.
This would
We
be,
still have to have.
this would be George pulling out his laptop right now, hitting a couple of keys and shutting all the lights off in the building down the street.
Okay.
Timing the whole building so that when a half an hour after the building closes, all the lights in the building shut down, whether they've been left on or not. That's that kind of control, which is handy to have. If you tell me you don't need it or you don't want it, we can take it out. I figured you'd want it. Because it's a big building and no one's
it's
gonna
easy
wanna,
control, yeah.
no one's gonna wanna go around shutting all the lights.
Program.
I agree.
But they will have occupancy centers anyway. 'cause it's a code.
But going back to the $8 versus $10, it's gonna boil down to the type of light fixture. The engineers can specify light fixtures that cost a fortune that are hard to get.
Yeah.
Or they can specify light fixtures that do the exact same thing that are easy to get. It is an office building, it's not a, it's not a theater. So it doesn't need wall sconces and all these fancy things. It needs general lighting, so.
Simply me.
Simply me.
Yeah, there's gonna be stuff.
There, actually.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Okay. All right, so that is a review of our potential cost saving measure. Do we need a vote on these or?
I would suggest we vote these three because they do change what you were considering.
It does give us our cost savings. It does bring us down. So we're trying to avoid a situation we had in a similar project that we had going where we're keeping more focus on the budget and the cost of this project.
Like,
Does anybody have any questions on?
George, to that point, I mean, obviously, we went through a similar process with the cost estimates on senior center project and the numbers were off. What, I know this is a different arrangement with a CM at risk, but just given the way the environment is out there, construction environment,
Well,
what
I think we still have to deal with the file submitters. So depending on what they come in, so.
Couple things. One, we're gonna have two more rounds of business, one being the GMP. And one being the 75%, and we're gonna have two independents beyond just the CM. Check and balance. But George is right, 38 to 40% of this project is file sub bid. And that number can vary. The fact that we just rattled off that we got a lot of pre-qualification, those trades that normally make file sub bidding upside down is in itself a plus for this project that we didn't have on the other project.
Also, it looks to be very competitive.
Yes.
And we'll be looking at some additional add-ons as well. We'll build into budget so that we can, and once we get to 75% estimate, we'll have a better idea what that is, and we'll put together a list of potential alternates. And we can talk about them. It's gonna be one of those things where they need to be put in order because they can be taken in order. And so sometimes folks have to combine them or take pieces and split them out. You don't want to have too many of them, so we'll have to find that balance and go over that with you and then line them up so we can get them on the documents. But that helps you to kind of build in a little bit of a circuit breaker. So when you get the bid day, your base bid is lower. And then if you have a good day, you can start picking up the alternates when you make your agreement.
Okay, one clarification. On this, as we vote these sorts of items, are there some where we're simply saying, no, we're not gonna do it? Like, let's say the produced cast stone would never come back. We made the decision, it's done. Whereas the tile and the lobby would be automatically something we put on the alternate list to look for both prices from a bidder. So are there two different answers here? Some we're just saying, okay, we're fine, we all agree that's a great one.
So if we vote the tile, what we're saying is that the base bid is going to include the pit porcelain. And that the alternate would be to add it to slate.
But on the other, but on
Can
the
we-
reduced cast one, we-
But to the second part of your question, we can always revisit.
Yeah.
And we probably will be revisiting a few of these as we progress down the path.
But some things to answer, the other part of that question that I think is kind of built in is that some things make good alternates and some things don't. And we'll advise you. Putting some of these things back that we're maybe making changes on are gonna be difficult to do. And designing two different systems completely makes a bad alternate.
Yeah.
So I've had folks say to me, could we design a building that has a generator as an alternate? And that's a bad alternate. The reason, because the emergency electrical system runs all through the building. It's not just a generator. Now, we can get your price on a generator separately, but if without the generator and an emergency lighting system inside, that's all based on that, it's not really gonna function, right? So, some things make a good change. Swapping out the two different types of tile, same substrate, and that's pretty easy. You know, going from, asphalt shingles on the roof to real slates. Yeah, I'm not recommending that, because you can't afford it. But that's not such a bad alternate. But other things that are more complex, like, hey, can we do an alternate to frame this building out of wood? No. That's not impossible. Right? It's just some things that, and we'll advise you as we kind of get into it.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah. Do they do poured floors anymore? I'm trying to think of the name.
Terrazzo.
Terrazzo, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we'd love to do terrazzo. But you need an override to do terrazzo.
It's a-
Because there's only two guys in the world that still do.
There's only two that, there's actually only two that do it, and it's fine.
It's a file.
Really?
Yeah.
Really,
Very, very rare now.
really?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
expensive.
I mean, this building is terrazzo.
So that's why we're going to the slate.
Yeah.
Is that what they're gravitating to in the newer buildings?
Slate
into
is,
the
well,
slate
slate is one of those things that just wears like iron.
Iron, right,
And it's easy to take care of, you know, you can wax it, but you don't need to. I'd recommend against it, actually. It's pretty easy to take care of, you clean and wash it. And you're ready to go.
okay,
Safety building.
It's just. It's one of those things where you spend a little bit more money, but you're gonna get value for your dollar.
Mhm.
Right, it's similar to putting in, natural woodwork versus paint. The paint is gonna be a little cheaper, but the maintenance on the painted is just gonna be a lot harder. When you get a chip of the paint, just looks awful. And when you get some chips and stain finish, it's not as bad. It just wears better. It's a harder material. It's harder to bang into, chip it, it's harder to dent than paint grade stuff. It's just, so there's some value to it. So we'll be talking to you about those things too, when it comes to all.
the other thing I had in the design of the building, I was thinking of, getting to the windows. Would they just have shades, or are these windows gonna have like lines that are in between that you would just,
Oh, yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend that.
no,
No, those break, and then when they do, you have to take them.
Right, you're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right,
So shades,
Clutch window shades.
so rather than curtains, these would be roller shades that are clutch operated, they'll stop anywhere you want them to, you don't have to yank on, they're not spring balanced. And then they'd be, made out of a polymer coated fiberglass mesh, so you can actually see through them. So they provide a lot of shading, but you can still see what's going on, there's still a little natural light coming in.
okay, all right.
Any other questions?
So
So,
it convinced me to go with the slate.
Yeah.
For the long run, it sounds like, even though it's a little bit more money, it's in the long run, it seems like it makes more sense.
But it does,
That's just.
it does make a good alternate, because like I said, you want to build a couple of those things in so that you have that. circuit breaker on bid day.
And that would be top alternative.
You could, I mean, depending on how you want to do it, you want to, I would say you want to put the things in your alternate, you want to order them by how much you want them. And then how difficult or hard it would be to add them back into the project later. Because when, you're gonna have a contingency fund on the project, and if you're maintaining, say it's 5%. When you're halfway done with the project, you only need half of that, right? And so if you decide you want to spend some of that money, you could add something back. But if we were to turn to these guys and say, oh, hey, let's switch from on the precast, and the masons are already laying up brick, they don't want to hear that. But if we had things like planting, which is probably gonna go in late on the project, then they could potentially give us a number to put the planting back in. Because that's not gonna happen for another 8 months, and we have time to do it. Those, so things that you could potentially add back in, or maybe even do yourself at a later date. I would put down towards the end of the list.
I agree with you, Kevin, on that. But I kind of agree with having it as
Nice to have options.
an option, so it can be really flexible on. So, if we were to make a motion on this, could we just put it as suggested changes that we have there instead of trying to go through the detail?
Yeah, no, I think that's fine, sure, and then, we can kind of plan it that way, and then we'll be, like I said, when we get to the 75% cost estimate, if numbers are tracking even lower, and, I'm still gonna suggest that we do some alternates. But if folks feel real strongly about it, and you want to find something else other than this, we can talk about that then. This isn't a done deal, I'm not gonna go off and
I
change.
mean, the application is pretty much the same, it's just the product that you get.
Yes, and so my drawings are gonna point at the floor, and they're gonna say base bid is porcelain tile, and alternate number X is gonna be slate, and then my specification is gonna say, this is the specification for the tile, and this is the specification for the slate, and they will just price them. Yeah, we'll just price them one way or the other, so it's a pretty easy thing for us to do, and we could do it now, we could do it later, so we'll wait for about 75.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Yeah, before you, would the slate be in the bathrooms too?
No.
No.
I mean, it could be, but I don't think.
George,
What do
she
you- what-
got an
what-
expensive taste over here.
Well, no, we're saying throughout the building, I'm just asking what.
When I say throughout the building, everywhere where we showed it to you in the model, so that is for the most part in the lobby on the lower floor, and then we had slate run on the main stair. But when you get upstairs, step off the elevator out of the stairway, and you're in the hallways upstairs,
Yeah,
or if you go down past the night lobby entrance into the first floor hallway further down, that's all carpeting
that's all contact.
right now, or VCT,
Okay.
but it's not slate, the slate stops.
Okay, so the bathrooms would be porcelain?
Bathrooms right now are scheduled to be porcelain.
Is that usually
That's
what the cleaning charges better for the bathrooms to have porcelain in?
Porcelain tile, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's-
Fine. I mean, other than that, it's the epoxy flooring, but that's not for this application, yeah. So,
The porcelain tile is gonna be more sanitary.
Okay,
I like I said, slate's easy to clean, but if you don't want to clean spills in the bathroom, obviously, that wouldn't be,
okay.
John, you bring up a good point about spills. I mean, just take a look at this carpet that should have been changed 15 years ago. Should it make sense that we look at what slate is in the corridors of the building? Rather than just stopping it and going to run?
Well, I may have misspoke when I said, well, we might have vinyl tile actually in the corridors, if I remember correctly. And carpet, once you get into the offices and so forth, just for that reason.
I think it was on these
Vinyl
too.
tile. I think vinyl tile.
yeah, VCT,
Is what you have.
I believe so. Good point.
It's a vinyl quartz tile, so it's got the quartz in it, which is right up next to the diamonds on the bullets. Yeah, right, so it's really, really hard. It's gonna wear really well.
So the offices have rugs or
Carpet tile is.
carpet tile?
So if you had a bad stain, it's also gonna be a solution dyed carpet. And a solution dyed carpet means that the colorant is put right into the yarn and it's in its molten form. Which means that you're on there and scrub it, you put bleach on it. In a lot of cases, and it won't come out because it's the color of the plastic that the carpet 5% paper. Whereas a yarn dyed, they take clear white yarn and then they dip it in dye, and that will eventually rub or wear off. It just doesn't last as long. You can get some really pretty jewel tones, but I don't think anybody's doing candy apple red carpet in this building anyway, so.
The carpet squares, we're gonna have attic stock anyways, so if
Right,
there is
don't
something
forget to
that
swap on a
happens,
square.
it just comes right out and it goes right down,
Yeah.
so.
I know, I was just thinking today, looking at some of the non-wood flooring. That they have out with, you know, as far as the offices, but carpeting is going in, that's fine. It's controls the noise level too.
Yes.
Okay,
It'd be a lot louder in the building.
do we have a motion on this? We're ready.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I move to accept the designer's recommendations to 1, reduce the amount of cast stone, 2, add porcelain tile in lieu of slate as an alternative, and 3, reduce the allowance for lighting.
Good.
Second. For discussion,
For discussion.
the second portion of that poll.
Add porcelain tile in lieu of slate as an add alternate.
Okay. So which will allow us to add the slate in because you're saying.
You can add it,
I just want to make sure we keep that on.
We have that on.
we're gonna put this, we're gonna put porcelain as the base. And then we're gonna have an add alternate for the slate, and then you can vote, when you vote to award the project. You can add that to the base bid.
Right. Good government control as far as the budget.
Yeah.
Right, so I have the motion, and discussion, we have a second.
A second it.
The Jack, second.
Oh, Jack seconded. Jack seconded.
Sorry, Jack. Take it to a vote, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. All right, so we had a meeting with the chair of the 4th of July committee, who I see. She's in the room in the back there, Pat, hi Pat. We reviewed the summer use of the student parking lot during construction. Pat, I don't know if you want to say a few words or if you're just in here for observation. I know I didn't have you on the agenda to speak, but.
Yeah, I'm happy to say a few things. I don't think I've met a lot of you. I'm Patrick Giroux. I oversee the Wilmington 4th of July committee. So George and I and Tony met on site at the student parking lot about a week ago to basically talk about the upcoming summer, what the implications are for the 4th of July. For those of you that aren't aware, which I think a lot of you are, Wilmington produces a very large 4th of July celebration. We'd be going on our 42nd year this year. Much of the real estate for the 4th of July encompasses that parking lot that will be impacted with construction. We also utilize the town common. The plan about 6 months ago was to scale some of the construction fencing back and have a condensed version of the carnival, which typically takes place in the student parking lot. Have a condensed version of that carnival in the parking lot. And then we can still produce some sort of celebration. As of recent, there's that infiltration system that needs to go in the parking lot. So we're starting to curtail the operation from the student parking lot to perhaps across the street to the high school campus. It's in very preliminary discussions right now. We met with the DPW and Georgia's staff last week to potentially talk about that layout. Losing the carnival to the Wilmington 4th of July is detrimental. It's pretty much a no-go. The carnival finances 60% of the operation. And if we have a summer without a carnival, then we don't have a 4th of July the following year. So we're trying to do everything in our power to have the carnival at the same location. It's pretty ideal with the town common right there. We have a lot of festivities there. We have over 20 community groups that participate in the celebration. They're kind of the backbone of the operation. So we're evaluating different locations for the carnival within that main area. Those of you that recall when the new high school was built several years ago, there was a big study done throughout town to see where else we can move the 4th of July celebration. We evaluated about a dozen locations throughout town. However, it all boiled down to the center of town, with the common is really the only location that we can have it. It was held at the Shriners for 2 years and it was a positive loss those 2 years. It took us 6 years to rebuild that budget, and we're finally back to where we need to be, so we can produce a 4-day community celebration. Sure, we can cut back on some of the activities that we do, but those that know Wilmington and enjoy the Wilmington Fourth know, the certain events that we produce, 2 fireworks, live music, lots of children's activities and family programming. So I guess in closing, we are cognizant of what the town needs to achieve this summer in order to put that infiltration system in. We of course want security at top of mind. We don't want, 20,000 people wandering around that parking lot with an active construction site. So that entire parking lot will most likely be offline this summer. So we're looking at other locations in that vicinity right now. We're mapping it out with the amusement company right now. They're in their busiest time of year right now with fairs. So as soon as they return back from that, we'll be doing some sort of site plan. George and I have been working together to get an aerial shot to see how we can, lay out a carnival in the high school campus. Step 2, after we have an ideal layout, we'll meet with the DPW, we'll meet with the school department to see if they can grant us, a week-long permit to produce a carnival within the high school campus. And if that can't be achieved, quite frankly, the 4th of July likely cannot occur. It's a very expensive operation to do, and we really need that carnival in that center of town to do it. The Shriners was a no-go, and there's a few other spots in town that we can look at, but every other location seems to have its challenges. So, we'll continue to liaise with George in the town to figure out how exactly we can pull this off. Transportation will be the biggest concern that I have on top of safety and security this summer. We're taking away a lot of parking if we're going to the high school campus, so we'll be tapping on alternative measures to shuttle folks back and forth to the celebration. But that's really my spiel. I'll continue to work with George and follow these meetings to see how exactly we can produce the event. We are looking to start permitting the event. We typically start going in front of boards end of year, early year. So, I'd like to go in front of the town by Christmas time, ideally, to start achieving some permits. It takes about 6 months to start putting contracts in place. And we like to start that process right about now. So, that's it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ben, and we do appreciate all the efforts you and your committee put together. I mean, I've been a part of that for a long time, so. Just to give people some, thank you very much.
Sure.
Just to give some history, so you've heard water infiltration, you've heard all sorts of things, so we talked to the school department, we've looked at what is going to be required for student parking on that lot as the construction is going on. As you know, in June, Tony confirmed a lot of the structural steel, cranes, concrete, a lot of work is going to be happening at that time. There's also a water infiltration system. So for every, I think it's square footage of impervious space or asphalt, this recharges the aquifer, the water system that goes under the parking lot, goes under different areas here. So that has to be taken up, and it's trying to be scheduled at about an 8-week period to do this. And it's looking like we're gonna try and get it done when school is out, so it doesn't impact the student parking lot. So with that 8-week period, it means that it would be, the parking lot would be back in place with about 150 parking spots, which was the minimum, I think, that the school department came up with. So that is just the hard timing fact on it. If we don't do it at that time, it's going to push the project out a little bit, which is going to increase costs. So this whole thing is kind of budgetary number, and we don't do it in 2024, it's gonna have to be 2025. And that's when they're gonna be looking to open the building. So, yeah, that's just for history. I'm just to let you know, and I will be working very closely with the 4th of July committee, trying to get this thing through. Steve, you have a question?
First of all, thank you. Appreciate all the efforts. Just for clarification, it's normally a 4 or 5 day event, because I was looking at the calendar, the 4th of July is a Tuesday. And so-
Yeah, we're a little unique. We typically don't operate on the actual 4th of July. Anything with the holiday triples costs,
Yeah,
town
it's a
personnel.
Thursday.
fireworks, so it typically operates.
It's a Thursday, Thursday, the 24th.
24,
Yeah,
July is a Thursday. Yeah.
Thursday,
Right.
yeah.
So it's not set in stone, but our dates ideally will be the Wednesday prior to the week before the 4th of July. I don't have the date offhand, but I think it's around like the 26th or so of June, and we'll be fully shut down by July 1st. With rain dates factored in.
Okay.
Again, that's not set in stone, but that's most likely the scenario.
Superintendent Brand, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do we have an idea of last day of school? Approximately, what's that, June 18th, do you know?
That part would be contingent upon snow, so no, not
We're
yet.
not having any snow days this year, right?
But the latest day, I don't recall offhand, but it's a possible day.
All right,
We can get that.
that's okay. I mean, I was just looking to see if you might have.
But that goes to the point, because I mean, potentially, it could be as late as somewhere in the 21st of June or the 24th. I'm on right here now, thank you.
Yeah.
And so if it's the 24th of June, that's a Monday. If you're starting on a Wednesday, the 26th. That seems really, I know they have to load everything in and all that.
So like I said, it's totally preliminary. I haven't looked at the school calendar. We're still trying to figure out a location for all of this. Once we have the location in mind, we'll look at dates that the town has, and we'll go from there.
And we have had a lot of discussion, especially with Tony, how, phasing this, how to get it through. Of course, it's cost wise, when they come in to do these, they dig it up, they get it all done, and they go right through and do completion. When you need to stop workage, move equipment, and come back at a later date to get everything back up and running. Time is money to these people, so I'm sure anything can be done at a cost.
George, the last day of school would be the 20th of June.
Thursday.
Okay. So
Just for anyone watching this on TV who have seen a picture of the 4th of July in the parking lot. These obstacles or delays or however you want to work them out are really just for this year during construction, correct?
correct, and afterwards, what you
And
saw there, we will be applied, the council can move back in, everything will be landscaped out, and next, the following year, 2025. It may coincide with the grand opening of this building. It should be into a almost final completion stage. And you can have a grand opening for the building and the 4th of July.
Fireworks with a purpose.
Fireworks with the purpose, so. Yeah. So. Go ahead.
Patrick, thank you for that presentation. That was great. And excellent job on Fall Fest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So as long as we're spitballing here now, right? And if we're talking just about the carnival only,
Yes.
July 1 is a Monday.
Yeah.
And the 4th is on a Thursday,
Mhm.
and the 6th is a Saturday.
Yep.
I remember back probably before you were born, 1976, 1977, they held a carnival on the grass behind St. Thomas, between the church and the Knights of Columbus. And I'm sure that was a very small carnival at the time, but I remember going there
Yes.
for that. And I'm wondering if there's a chance that St. Thomas would allow the carnival in their parking lot Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
Something, I'm just, like I said, we're just spitballing here, right?
Yeah, we have in our notes, I wasn't with the group at the time when they scouted out locations back 2015, 2012 timeframe or so. I put it in, yeah, it was around there. St. Thomas was on there. There was an issue with St. Thomas at the time. I believe it had something to do with the ownership group or whatever owns the church. They did not want that type of attraction over there.
Okay.
I don't want to get off topic on this end, as we're not here to discuss the.
Yeah,
4th of
yeah,
July
yeah,
stuff. So, I mean, I appreciate everything, and we'll continue to work closely with you. Thanks for spitball.
As long as you're throwing it out there.
As long as it has nothing to do with the 4th of July location.
Well, it's going to do, all I ask is if you can keep the school department
Oh, yeah,
informed, because
sure.
we do have our extended year special education program. That's a 6-week program that typically starts right after school. We have summer school. And we have.
Right, anything that happens
So
on
we
school
just-
grounds,
we
you
just need
guys,
to know.
you will know that.
Our goal is to have some sort of schematic worked out with George and the DPW in the next coming weeks. And then we'll hopefully get together with the school department to see if it works with you guys. We should have a date fixed for on the 4th, 2024 next week, actually. So the ball is rolling. As soon as we have all those pieces together, we'll meet with the respective groups. Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
That never ends.
Next will be upcoming meetings. So these will still work for everybody.
We already scheduled one for November.
I got a November 1 on the calendar.
November 1, right?
November 1, yeah.
Where is that what it is?
I said, hey, November 1.
Yeah, did you say, Dan, there's something to reschedule? Well, nothing.
I have November 1 on the calendar already.
Yeah, I have November 1 too.
Okay.
Thought we had said that at the last meeting, we could pick the next two, didn't we?
Yeah. And then December would be December 6th.
6th, I had that already.
Okay. So what we keep with that?
December 6th, you say?
Correct.
We have school committee meeting.
We get off schedule first, so we get there right, all this.
Or we'll make all important school decisions then.
So yes, stick with the 6th.
Yeah, for now. And it may change at the next, but we can say. Let's just give everybody out. All right, public comments? Any? Nothing?
George, I just wanted to. One thing I was thinking about is, once this whole project gets really rolling and before the stock for the building of the project, gets loaded onto the site and everything. One of the things that I think would be very advantageous is to have some sort of meeting with the people on School Street, as well as some of the residents on the other side, the Powerhouse Circle and everything. And just a notice to call out, and just let them know that this is going to be happening. And probably, they'll come to the meeting, but at least they'll know who to contact if they have an issue, rather than just calling the police department,
We're actually gonna send out a notice to the neighbors of the senior center next week. Because senior center's gonna start clearing land in the week of the 16th.
Okay,
So on this particular project, those of us that were on the CM selection interviews. That whole service was promised by Consigli. Not only to do outreach prior to construction, but outreach during construction.
good.
You can expect noisy concrete trucks this week. You can expect a little bit of crane noise this week. So we are expecting to do the same with this project as we are going to do with the design bid build.
Correct.
But we are on top of that.
Good.
And we did have the neighbor that has the young child come to one of our meetings.
Right.
We promised her that we would keep her informed, and we're going to.
I think a newsletter and also for our town website, so we get information on it. Just so
Yeah.
we get that out there also.
Regarding the newsletter, are we going to be putting out another one for,
So we
we
are,
haven't done anything for a while.
so we, it's hard to do a newsletter to talk about this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It really is. A newsletter is drafted right now, for the other project.
Okay,
And the following newsletters beyond that are actually gonna be showing construction, pictures, videos, aerials,
mhm,
all those type of things. So the newsletters are gonna morph into the actual construction.
mhm.
So, we'll get there here. But we don't really have a lot to talk about other than, we're at 75%. If you want us to send something out indicating that, we'd be happy to, but
Yeah.
we're making sausage here.
Well, the only thing I was thinking about is, I know the school, the senior center is moving along further and is first. But if we could make the next water bills, make something to put it as a mailer in the next water bills, at least as far as the town hall school administration building, just a write-up of percentage and anticipation of 24 in March,
And
that
we-
there's
if you want-
anticipation.
If you'd like us to put something in the water bills, we'll be happy to put something together like we did for the last two water bills. that we
One
did.
back to back.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Jeff, when's the next one going on?
November. So when do you need it? The second week of October again?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, it's gonna be, maybe too late for the November one.
Maybe, okay,
But there's gonna be a lot of communication,
okay,
and you're gonna be shocked at how many people are gonna read them. Once you get to construction, because they can't see behind the fence, and
right.
you're gonna wanna know what's going on.
Right.
And they're right, and they'll be informative too.
I was only thinking of the water bills because then it hits them right in the face and, sometimes you say you're gonna go on the website and you get distracted and you never get to read it on the website. But,
And
Okay.
those sort of reminders, visit the town, website, to see what's out there. And maybe-
good,
Okay.
we're gonna, good.
So last meeting, we talked a little bit about the Swain parking situation and so forth, and I think Dan, you would ask if I put an email together and some information that you'd like to have. I send something to you. I just, idea.
175, 150 was what we
Right.
got.
Yeah, it was in there, but there's a bunch of other questions in there, and I just get an idea of what we might get, some response to that.
Yeah, we'll follow through.
I'll follow through
That-
on
that's
that.
fine, yeah.
I was mostly concerned about the numbers to make sure that we could accommodate the 150 and
Right.
preliminarily meeting with considering we'll be able to meet the 150.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be tight.
So there were some other questions I had sent, I just. diary
We'll-
stuff,
we'll-
but-
we'll
but,
go
you know,
through it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all, okay, thank you.
And yeah, are we still in the public comment?
Yes.
I just wanted to, I think this is Jeff's last meeting for this committee. So I just want to thank Jeff for all of his support for the committee since I got here anyway. Probably the 15 years before working on this project, so I just wanted you to know, I appreciate you.
Anything you want to say, Jeff? I wish you were going in that new office.
Yeah, well.
Well, you'll still come back.
A nice office.
Yeah, it'll be a great building.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your efforts and everything you've helped through this whole process.
Right, thank you very much.
All right, last item on the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion. Adjourn.
Second, McKelvin Carr, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman.